thank you very much indeed for joining me for this conversation for Tech the New Era. Obviously, the Denver tech scene is a really vibrant one. You've been, and that's where you're headquartered. Tell me a little bit more about why it is that Denver has become a real center of attention for not just the Bay Area companies that are setting up operations there, but also indigenous companies like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Denver offers a really wide range of attributes, I think, for companies and specifically tech companies. Obviously, the balance of cost of living makes it a lot easier for organizations to attract talent. But beyond that, the beauty of Colorado gives an opportunity for people to have a nice balance between work and life. And I think that's really important, especially in the tech world where we tend to work really hard driving towards our goals. So yeah, Denver specifically in the greater Denver area offers a really good balance when you're driving for really strong talent and giving them a really healthy place to work.
And do you think the reason why it's become so successful is quality of life, or is it more that you have a particular indigenous set of skills for companies?
No, I think first it's the quality of life that then drives certain skills to the area and then creates more of an ecosystem for tech companies, right? So it is it's not something that happens overnight. When you see markets like Denver and Austin and others that develop behind Silicon Valley and Seattle as strong tech markets.
Yeah. So lockdown, you are one of many companies that have headed to the UK. It's kind of a no-brainer when you get to a certain size and you're a fast growth company, which Pax8 is, that you consider the United Kingdom as your first overseas investment market. Do you think lockdown and the response, the COVID response by the US government or state legislatures as well, and the United Kingdom government, do you think that has had a significant effect in terms of transatlantic trade?
I don't know if I'd label it as significant, but it has been noticeable. I think some of the typical ways in which a tech company like ours thrives is making sure that we can establish our culture and that our abilities to meet and work with people face to face is not essential, but it's important, especially for development of big partnerships. We completed an acquisition in 2020, which was probably way more challenging than normal. And even post acquisition, the challenges of acquiring a business that never got to meet the CEO and founders and other board members. That's not a challenge that I think anyone was prepared for, but it's one that we had to persevere. And I think that having, I call it foundational staff, having some essential workers that can come over and provide some of that ground cover to build your organization on the back of is more important now than it's ever been, because you can't be together. And so you have to create that environment where people understand what makes the company special and what gives an opportunity for an organization to thrive. And that's one of the things that we focused on, was making sure that we had people with really strong experience at Pax8 that could offer that guidance and advice and just camaraderie to the colleagues that we hired.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand that. Now, Pax8, what is it that, obviously I know, but for the benefit of people who are watching this, why is it that the United Kingdom was considered to be an important investment market, and how does that relate to your product set, in terms of the core offer and also potential partners in the UK?
Yeah. Okay. So let me start with I think the attraction to the UK market. The UK market has a very mature and robust channel in the IT space, and that translation for us being just months behind the development and progress of what we see in the U.S. Was a easy place to land, and beyond that, it's a huge gateway into the rest of Europe. So it was really important for us as we started our globalization to establish, you know, essential flagship locations or headquarters as we expand globally. And the UK made the most sense, right? Because we can have a self-sustaining operation just in the UK, and then there's an incredible amount of opportunity for us to provide a lot of coverage to the rest of Europe, and a lot of skills in the UK that offer great advantages in doing that from the UK rather than another European country. As far as our business, we were in an interesting situation this year. So we are a cloud-focused distributor of IT products, and specifically around essential business operations type of products. So Microsoft and security, continuity, infrastructure products. And more recently, we've added connectivity products like Zoom and other telecommunications companies. So it was a really interesting time for us to also start our global expansion with the pandemic happening, because you know, there's been a lot of leaning into the solutions as people need to quickly convert their workforce to remote. Leveraging tools that have been developing over the past couple of years was essential, and so being able to make sure that we supported the channel, and we work exclusively through the channel, so we don't sell to consumers, but working with IT outsource companies and other trusted advisors, we sell to make sure that they can support the businesses that are essential to different economies.
So the product is about, obviously the reason for investing in the UK was about developing relationships with UK customers, obviously, but also about potentially augmenting your service offer by developing relationships with UK partners. So you arrived pretty much at the worst possible time, didn't you? Like you and I worked together and we were having conversations when neither of us knew that this
Right.
was all going to kick off, and you arrived. You moved your life and your family to the UK, and then lockdown happened. Describe for me what it's been like and the kind of hurdles that you've had to overcome in order to be able to establish, just establish operations, given the fact that you've had sort of at least one arm tied behind your back.
Yeah, so I could probably go into, we could talk about this for probably 30 minutes. I think the one thing that I reflect on the most, especially with an announcement, recently by the UK Home Office about, relaxing restrictions. I think as I reflect back on the past year, I think the one thing that was most frustrating is representing a business that was thriving during a pandemic and being in a position to confidently and aggressively scale, which is, I think, one of the most valuable things to do during lockdown, right? When traditional economic forces are slowing down, it was a really unique way for us to be able to keep investing in the business. And because the governments, I think, had so much, they were so hesitant to make announcements or to communicate about certain things, it was particularly difficult for us, right? That we would have been here and launched 6 months earlier if it hadn't been for some of the difficulties in navigating the landscape of international expansion, and specifically coming to the UK. So it becomes a lot more difficult because of that.
So Cole, the process of recovery then, we're not about to come out of lockdown. Apparently it's going to be 4 months, I think, before if everything goes to plan, before the UK fully comes out of all of the regulations that have been imposed. But there's been a lot of discussion about the opportunities and the huge upswing in the economy. Just yesterday there were reports from Wall Street that some tech stocks were declining quite rapidly, or perhaps there was churn in the tech space, in that different technologies are now being more closely looked at by the investor community, and less so the kind of collaborative tools that got that big upswing after lockdown. There's also been suggestions that there's a huge amount of money swirling around in the private equity firms, and a wee bit of vulture capital emerging, as well as, you know, some tech firms that have perhaps suffered as a result of the downturn,
right,
are ripe for acquisition. What's your feeling in terms of the likely trajectory of the recovery, and what part's Pax8 going to play in that?
Yeah, I won't give I won't pretend to know too much, you know, beyond the tech space, or to make any comments outside of that. But I will say one of the things that, you know, I think is on the horizon for us is I think there'll be a shift from using technology because it's essential, which we saw during, you know, especially the first lockdown. Everybody reacted. There was a lot of reaction in the way people tried to adjust, and really companies that were progressive in their thinking prior to lockdown were the ones that thrived throughout it, right? That pivoted to an omni-channel way of interaction with the customer, because that's really what was leveraged more than it ever been leveraged and focused on, was omni-channel purchasing in the supply chain. People needed different ways to interact and buy and collect and things like that. I think what businesses will lean on, if they're smart, is that technology will not be used just because it has to be used, but will be leveraged. I think so. We'll see an emergence or more prevalence around using data and AI to help make business decisions and move a little faster and more intelligent into the next phase, right? So obviously one of the most popular things talked about in 2020 was that this was the digital revolution. And there was a huge shift in the way businesses functioned. And now we're seeing stats that confirm that people are focusing on ways to increase their cybersecurity and use data and AI and leverage cloud technologies almost 2 times more prevalent than it ever was before, because people can't be constrained by a physical location or a physical data center. And because of that, I think organizations will be smart in the way that they look at technology as an enabler, not an essential.
Yeah. And Pax8's development plans, do you think it's going? Obviously, you can't state company secrets, but obviously acquisition was a part of your plans, and you are seeing big increases in demand for your products. So what do you think? What do you think the future holds for you in terms of the development of your international operations?
Absolutely, I think it's what we've realized that even prior to the pandemic and coronavirus is that we had built up a slight elasticity in a lot of the more in a lot of the G12 nations. There was a lot of pent up demand for the efficiencies we brought to the market, and so now it's really important with the growth and confidence from our investors and our organization internally. It's really important that we create a global presence and that we establish our operations on a wider scale, because that the capability to influence globally for our vendors and even for our customers is really, really important. So when we look at globalization, I think it's making sure that we have a very calculated and well thought out plan to establish and replicate, right? Not just represent, but replicate our successes from North America.
Well, listen, it just remains for me to say well done for weathering this storm, and belated welcome to the United Kingdom, and I hope Pax8 continues to thrive, and even more so, obviously, once we come out of this madness. But Cole, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Absolutely, thank you.